Welcome to Pigeon Racing World with Winners1. I'm Rod Simmons. In Brisbane we have Dave Christensen. G'day David.
Hi Rod, hello viewers. If you have not already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the little bell. Get videos every Sunday for 12 episodes.
David, you had some ministers down at your club rooms recently.
Last month we were extremely privileged to have Luke Howarth, MP, Federal Member for Petrie, Assistant Minister for Community Housing, Homelessness and Community Services, and Phil Colson, the Liberal National Party state candidate for Bancroft at the club, to meet and greet the membership and announce and congratulate the North Road Combine on being awarded a $12,500 grant from the Energy Efficiency Council. This grant is on top of another grant of $12,500 from the Moreton Bay Regional Council for solar panels, a $7,000 COVID hardship grant, and a $20,000 infrastructure grant from the Queensland Government.
Right, okay.
Where do we find these grants? If you go to www.ourcommunity.com.au, you'll find money, grants, and fundraising subscriptions and books. You can also go to www.thegrantshub.com.au. That one you'll find a 14-day free subscription, and I believe they also have a special promotion for Victorian organisations. Another is www.fundingcentre.com.au and www.businessaustralia.com. Now on this site you'll find access and advice and tools like free marketing, documents and grants. www.businessaustralia.com has access, advice, tools, documents and grants. One of the things that we find most helpful is the free marketing advice. And also finally, www.connectingup.org. Now on this site it has significant discounts on IT hardware and software that you need the most. So you can buy high-end spec desktops, computers. They are revitalised, refreshed.
You don't get rich out of it. No. Well, not yet. Yeah.
It's a lifetime.
I got 3 sons as well. They're all in high school now. So you can get through it? Yeah, mate. Take it easy.
Look for the mentioned websites and others on Winners1 website. I'd like to welcome in the studio from Pigeon Racing Victoria, Taz Gazis. Welcome Taz.
Hi Rod, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and I'm really happy to elaborate about Pigeon Racing Victoria and everything that goes with it.
Welcome Taz.
Taz, what's Pigeon Racing Victoria all about?
Pigeon Racing Victoria is all about promoting pigeon racing, increasing the profile of the sport in Australia and also helping mentor people along the way. We've got a number of different initiatives that some have been completed and some are yet to be completed.
Now, who makes up Pigeon Racing Victoria?
Pigeon Racing Victoria is made up of 2 to 3 delegates from each federation, and all the initiatives are voted on, and that model also has the benefit of making sure that one organisation is not overly represented and maintains a mobilised effort in promoting the sport.
Can country clubs get involved?
Most definitely, Rod. We do have a delegate who is from Camperdown, Rex Perkins, and we do encourage country clubs to get involved. And just on that, we've referred quite a few flyers to country clubs.
In the time that it's been going, how many people have you referred to the different federations?
Well, as of 2 days ago, we've referred 37 flyers, which is a pretty good little effort. And that's just with the initial programs that we've had. So I think so much more can be done.
Have all those flyers actually ended up flying and racing?
Well, what we tend to do is refer them onto the clubs, and then we pretty much leave that responsibility up to the clubs. Our main focus is to refer them, but we do offer a mentor service so that if they become unstuck or they need to know more about the sport, they can actually come to us and we can guide them in the right direction. And that might be asking questions, or that might be just having a mentor for the day-to-day stuff.
Pigeon Racing Victoria runs a race called the Vic Cup. Now, I'd like to go into that further with you, but before we do though, the South Australian Homing Pigeon Association conducts a junior series. We have a short video of a little 5-year-old Isabel Snyders who races with her grandfather Bun Snyders.
That's it. Well done. You want to go get the food out the shed?
Yes.
I'll put a feeder in there, baby.
Hello Isabel, how are you today?
Good.
That's good. And what are we going to talk about today?
Pigeons?
Pigeons. Do you race pigeons?
Yes.
Who do you race them with?
Opa?
So on race day, is it very exciting?
Yes.
Yeah. What are some things that you like about race day with Opa?
That we have to spot them
You have to spot them, and how do you do that?
with our eyes.
Yeah. Do you point them out at all?
Yes.
When you yeah.
And we be quiet.
And when you see one, what do you do?
We let another pigeon out.
And what does that pigeon do?
It helps the pigeon go into the loft.
And when we get pigeons on race day, what do you like trying to find out? Do you like to see if your pigeons are in front of Opa's pigeons and have come first?
Well, Opa's pigeons normally win than mine, but on the other race day, they won.
So do you have a special lunch or anything when you do racing with Opa?
Yes,
What do you have?
barbecue,
Barbecue. What type of things do you have with a barbecue?
sausages,
Does anyone else come to race day with you and share it? Who?
Patrick,
Oh, who's Patrick?
my brother.
Oh, does he like the pigeons as well?
Yes,
Yes. And how are you going this season? Have you won some races?
yes,
Yeah.
little bit.
So Isabel, you have some names for your pigeons, don't you? What are some of your birds named?
Bluebird, shaky, unicorn,
That's pretty cool.
and bell.
Bell? And Isabel, do you have to get anything ready in the loft for the
Yes.
pigeons for when they get home?
Yes, I have to open up the little thing and put some food in so the pigeon can eat.
So Isabel, if you win a race as a junior, do you get anything special? What do you get?
Trophies.
And what do they look like?
This?
Wow, look at those. Did you get 2 last season?
Yes.
Very good. And they are for Lyndhurst and Hawker races. How did you feel when you got them?
Special?
Special. Is there anyone special that you want to talk about before we say goodbye?
Yes. I like racing pigeons with Oprah. Bye bye. Thank you.
They'll be home soon. Do the other one? Not that one. Good girl. You want to get food? It's in the blue tub.
I got this big dog. Oprah, can I fill up the doggy's drink?
Can you what?
Fill up the doggy's drink.
Yeah, you can fill up the doggy's drink. Yeah.
That's it.
Don't.
Sorry.
Pigeons are coming over soon. Can't be too far away. You're looking up in the air?
That one now.
No, that's a bird.
Yeah, that's a bird.
That's a bird.
That one.
It's another bird. Tell me when you see it.
That one.
Oh, it's another bird. We want pigeons.
Yeah, pigeons. That one.
No, that's nothing, you.
Bird.
That's a little bird.
Another bird.
Come. You see one yet, Izzy?
Yeah, that one that floats all the way down.
Over there.
Yeah.
There's one. Good girl. Oh, they win. Where is he?
There. 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 Is that one?
Oh, might be. Good on you, Izzy.
Pull it down one.
One. One. Oh dear.
There it is. There it is.
Where?
Not there. That you're saying.
Ah, okay. Oh, nearly. Too fast. Where did he go?
There. There.
Where? Good girl.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. Should be the second one. There it is. Okay, now. Good girl. Good girl, Izzy. Well done. Oh. You're a bit scared. Come on.
We'll be back soon after this short break.
The Australian Racing Pigeon Journal has been an interesting educational read since 1993 and still a significant way to keep abreast of the sport of pigeon racing. In each exciting monthly magazine, editor Jeff Howe brings together Australian and international articles. Join pigeon fanciers throughout the world who subscribe and enjoy the Australian Racing Pigeon Journal. Loft visits, training tips, pigeon strains, as well as health advice from world-renowned avian veterinarians are regular topics featured in this great read. There is nothing better than keeping a quality magazine on the shelf to read anytime.
I'd like to welcome from Adelaide Tim Fawcett, member of the SAHPA. Welcome, Tim. Tim, can you tell us about your juniors competition?
Sure. Look, Rod, our junior scheme here runs over 5 races in the SAHPA. I looked at probably setting it up probably about 6 years ago now. When I was on the committee of management of the SAHPA, I just felt that we weren't really doing anything in the way of juniors and hadn't done for about a decade or so. I know when I was a kid, I used to fly in the junior comp, but it had really been sort of left to rack and ruin, to be honest. But look, we've slowly built it up from 6 years ago to this year. We had 17 kids fly. The kids from 4 to 16 years of age. The birds can be with a senior flyer and in their loft, and the senior flyer can also race those pigeons at the same time. The juniors have 5 races. They're allowed to have 5 birds per race with only single bird clocking. The entry for the year is free. They also are allowed to have a 25 bird team register when they start. So that has to be submitted on race night 1. Kids race 5 races. They can send any of those pigeons, any of those 25 listed pigeons across the series. As I said, also eligible to fly under the senior flyer if they're connected to a senior flyer. Otherwise, they're on their own, and they have a junior result. We have points down from 17 down to 1 in this year, for example, or however many fly in each race. We have points from first to last. The winners of each race also, we give out a trophy to each winner, and we also provide gift vouchers to the first, second and third prize winners. We have $100 worth of gift vouchers per race, so $50 for first, 30 and 20. And we then do the presentation at the start of the senior presentation night, so the kids come along, and that way if they're tired or whatever, they can go home early. But yeah, it's really been going well. It's been really pleasing this year in 2020 that we've had 17 kids, probably the most we've had in, probably 20 years. So it's just a nice positive, and I know a lot of the, parents and grandparents have been really proud to be involved as well. As have I to see it's, been taking off well this year.
Do the junior flyers' position also count for the senior flyers' results in the federation?
Yeah, look, they can. We originally, when I flew in the kids years and years ago, and we're going back a while now, over 30 years ago, you used to have to fly your own birds, and they were separate to the senior. We didn't, when we set out to sort of relaunch this competition, we didn't want to disadvantage the senior flyer by saying we have to have 5 birds out of your team. So the birds are eligible for both. We just enter them in twice in the results. The junior flyer has their own flyer number set up, and they enter in the results. They're not displayed in the main SAHPA result, but they're in a separate result, and in the junior results is a juniors club, and they will go under that. So yeah, it's quite straightforward.
So to make it clear, if my granddaughter was racing with me and the result of her bird was 7th Federation, that would count also for me as 7th Federation.
Yeah. Look, you as the senior flyer, that pigeon would win you 7th Fed prize. Depending on if there's a junior birds above that or not, the junior might win first in the juniors SAHPA. Depending if you're high up like that, I'd say it would probably be highly likely that would happen. So yeah, look, it's been really positive. We've had some good high results with some of the junior birds over the last couple of years, and like I said, we set out not to disadvantage the senior flyer, and it's more about the participation of the kids, and and it's good for the senior flyer. If they've got birds in, they can still race for them as well. The only difference is the senior flyer can't send those junior birds on top of their 30 bird limit in a SAHPA race, so they are included within those numbers.
We just played the video of little Isabel Snyders, who races with her grandfather Bun Snyders. What is the age group of the juniors?
Oh, look, we go from 4 to 16. So Isabel started actually last year on the minimum age bracket when she was 4, and I remember in the junior presentation last year, her pulling up. She's only a little kid, so I was like, wow, she's tiny, but it was really good, seeing her for up to some of the older kids, it's really good. But so it's 4 to 16. So generally we say when you're above 16 you can't compete in the juniors anymore, and you'd be a senior competition flyer. But that's generally the age group we look at. I think that's fairly good. I haven't had anyone come and say, oh look, my kids aren't eligible, or wouldn't mind. We could always have a look at that if that was the case, but we tried to keep the age range fairly broad. So yeah.
And is there a fee of any type for them to be eligible to race as a junior?
No, none whatsoever. It's all free. The birds that they're entering must be in the senior person's prepaid nomination list for the SAHPA. So the senior can't take advantage of it by having a free run with the birds being free entry. So the senior flyer pays for the birds. If it was a kid just racing under their own steam, we wouldn't charge them to enter. But yeah, like I said, each race we have 3 prizes, and at the end of each series we give each junior that competes a certificate of merit that is like a laminated certificate which tells you races. So yeah.
You started with 4 or 5 children and now have 17 racing. What's the secret, mate?
Oh look, I think having it linked in with the senior presentation night's been really important. I think the people come along and say, oh, this would be good. Our kids, when they're, mum and dad's or grandpa and grandma's house, they are interested in the birds, so they go to senior presentation night and then think, well, hey, my kids might want to do this or might want to be involved. I think that's been the key. It's been real word of mouth. It's not been so much about, kids getting prizes. The kids are really keen to get your trophy and stuff like that. But yeah, look, I think that's been the key. Our numbers have sort of this year really taken off, but so the past 5 years we've only really had between 6 and 10, and then this year up to 17 was a real huge thing. And I try and encourage, when I see kids hanging around with parents, I'll say, hey, why don't you fly in the juniors if you're keen, because you see them at events and things, and you ask the question and just sort of plant the seed, really, because there's a lot of kids out there that are interested, but sometimes the parents don't all the parents or grandparents think it's a bit of a hassle, but we make it very easy for people. It's try not to make people jump through hoops and about getting kids competing.
It's exciting and commendable to you and the Federation.
Yeah, thanks, Rod. I mean, look, I know when I was a kid, I was just super keen on pigeons from about the age of 6, and when I got the opportunity to fly in we had the inaugural Doug Searle Shield competition, and Doug Searle was a really top fella from down Port Adelaide. I had the pleasure of meeting him when I was a young bloke, and he was instrumental in the heydays with Port Adelaide Federation and the western suburbs with promoting juniors and taking a lot of young kids under his wing, and having a good competition down there. And I guess the SAHPA owes him a lot with what's happened in the past, to having a lot of our senior flyers now that would have had association with Doug as juniors. So that's what the kids still fly for the Doug Searle Shield. So it had a bit of a hiatus when we didn't have anyone competing, but yeah, like I said, it's revamped. The winner gets the Doug Searle Shield every year. I was very proud to be the first person that 1987 I think it was when I won it, and I was 13 back then. So it was a real thrill for me at the time, and I know what enjoyment it gave me and pleasure pigeons gave me as a kid and still do today. I got through pigeons through my grandfather, and it's been a lifelong love of mine. I've had stints in and out of the sport, but you generally come back to it, and I've made a lot of good friends that through pigeons over the years. Many lifelong friends that are that aren't just there for when pigeon season's on, but when pigeons aren't on, I see them socially and do other things with them that aren't pigeon related. So yeah, I think it's really important. It's nice when the kids all get together on presentation night, because they don't usually see each other too much, but yeah, they get together and do things that kids do. So it's just nice to see a heap of kids running around and that have got a common interest.
Tim, thank you for coming on Pigeon Racing World with Winners1. It's been a real pleasure, mate.
No worries, Rod. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, and for promoting our SAHPA junior competition. And hopefully we can just maintain the numbers and keep onwards and upwards and doing well. Thank you.
We'll be back after this short break.
Yeah, g'day guys, Richard Clement from the NCF Federation in Newcastle, flying partnership with my father Malcolm up here, and just wanted to comment today on a product that we've been using over the last couple of seasons called Protein Plus, which we sourced from Winners1 in Victoria. Protein Plus is a product that we started using in our stock loft as a trial product a couple of years ago. We were interested in how we could ensure that when our youngsters had those last few days in the nest before they went into the race loft, and as they went into the race loft didn't lose any body in condition, and we found that the product was particularly helpful with that, and we were very happy with our first trials. We used it then a little bit more in the stock loft and found that over time our pigeons, particularly as they went into the third and fourth round of breeding, weren't losing body and were still in really good condition at the end of the breeding season, so that was really a positive for us in the first year. Last year we used it in the race loft for the first time. We found it to be a really good product to help put condition back onto the birds and to help the birds build back up a little bit quicker than what they probably previously would have, without having to change their feed base too much, particularly early in the week. We've had a pretty successful couple of years up here, winning multiple club and combine and federation averages, and last year particularly was a record-breaking year for us, and we put some of that success down to the fact that we've been able to use this product consistently now, and we'd have no hesitation in recommending it for other flyers who want to try and aid that recovery period, particularly after a hard race or a hard toss.
David, what does the North Road Combine charge for first year flyers?
In the North Road Combine, the $20 application fee applies. The genuine first year flyers fly free. All we ask for is a stat deck to that effect. Juniors also fly for free. Kaz, can you tell us more about the Vic Cup?
Yes, Dave. The Vic Cup is basically an image building race, and its main focus is to captivate the public and also the fraternity, but to highlight that you're dealing with thoroughbred animals, and to highlight that pigeon racing is a valid sport. The race was in 2018, the first inaugural Vic Cup. The prize money comprised $195,000, which is by far the largest in Australia. And it was a very, very successful race. First 40 positions were awarded Fed positions and were in the money. First prize was $100,000, and the race will be held again in 2022, with first prize being also $100,000 and guaranteed.
The PRV has been set up to promote the sport of pigeon racing. What are you aware of that's being done overseas to also promote the sport?
So there have been quite a few initiatives overseas in relation to pigeon racing. The main one that comes to mind is China. In China, it really has taken off the last few years, mainly because of the wagering that's involved. But there are other countries like Romania that have done very, very well. Romania has gone from 2,000 flyers to 12,000 flyers in less than 10 years. And that's predominantly because they've pushed it and they've promoted it to the juniors. And it just shows you what you can do. Another country that comes to mind was Greece. Greece wasn't even a pigeon racing country till a few years ago. So Greece wasn't even a pigeon racing country in the 80s. And all of a sudden they started to promote it, and they formed a federation of 600 flyers. It's not that right now because of their recession, but it is a sport that has done very well. So it just shows you what can be done, and I've always believed with the right initiatives, pigeon racing can thrive. I've always had the view that pigeon racing is the best kept secret, and it's a great lifestyle. You make a lot of friends, it motivates you. My wife says that it puts a lot of routine in your life, so overall it really does enhance your life, and I've always felt that more should be done and more people should be involved because it's just a great pastime and a great hobby.
Taz, if someone wanted to get involved with pigeon racing in a small way or in a large way, how can they do it?
Well, Rod, the first thing that I would ask people to do is to make contact with Pigeon Racing Victoria, either by email or by a phone call, and then we can steer them in the right direction. So we can put them onto a club, we can allocate a mentor, and we can get the ball rolling in terms of establishing a loft, establishing some pigeons to breed from, and just some rough guidelines as to what to do.
Taz, do they need a lot of money to get involved with pigeon racing?
Not necessarily, Rod. Everyone can do it at their own level. I mean, some people do like to spend a bit of money, but you can start out very, very basic, and both systems work, both approaches work. So there's no universal rule there. The main thing is that you get a feel for the sport, you get to know what's involved, and you just appreciate what has to be done. And you don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money. For one thing, the Vic Cup has improved the membership, and that seems to be a model that works overseas quite well. With the big prize money available, it captures people's imagination, and it has been able to bring in people that used to race pigeons and increase the membership. So it really is an image building race, and it's important that it maintains that role within the fraternity.
Pigeon Racing World, Taz, is viewed in Australia and abroad. How can people who may not even have pigeons, or abroad or around Australia, how can they get involved with the race?
We have lofts in Melbourne that are prepared to race other people's pigeons, so that would involve having a syndicate, and you would be the breeder or the provider of that bird, and someone else would race it for you. It's $100 per ring or per bird, and that allows you to participate if you don't necessarily have the bird yourself, or you just want someone else to race the bird for you in a Melbourne loft.
If someone wants to get involved with the race, they have to contact Pigeon Racing Victoria, and how do they do that?
That's right, Rod. So you can contact by either calling myself or sending an email through the website, and we can set you up with a Melbourne loft, because all the lofts are predominantly, the competing lofts are in Melbourne and in the Geelong areas at this point in time. So you would have to pretty much provide a pigeon to the racing loft, or you can form a syndicate where that loft nominates a bird for you. And one thing I wanted to mention is that if you don't want to race on your own, you can form syndicates like club syndicates, and that's a good way to do it.
Taz, you mentioned that there's been 37 flyers that Pigeon Racing Victoria has referred in the last few years. What can federations and clubs do?
I think that everyone has a responsibility to publicise the sport, and even at the club level or at the federation level and at the level that we're doing at Pigeon Racing Victoria. But for the most part, just to basically be in the public eye, newspapers, TV, radio if possible. About a third of the flyers that we've referred have been to country clubs, and one of the things that I've found is that they're actually quite hard to get in contact with, so they need to get their name out there and they need to be contactable. Two of the other things that Pigeon Racing Victoria have been involved in, Rod, have been loft reports through the Australian Racing Pigeon Journal. So to date there's been about 28, and we've also done quite a few trade expos around Melbourne. To date there have been about 14. So both of those help the fraternity and help new people coming in. And I can't overstate the role that the Racing Pigeon Journal plays within the sport, in that a lot of new flyers rely quite heavily on it to learn the ins and outs of the game. So it's a wonderful publication. One of the things that I also want to mention, Rod, is that pigeon racing is a great hobby. It's a great pastime, and it's got a lot of positives, and these quite often are not mentioned enough. But I think if the public knew what was actually involved day to day, they would view it quite positively. It takes a lot of stress out of your life. It's very, very enjoyable day to day, week to week, month to month, and it gives you something to aim for, and it's something that you can do in your backyard. So there are just so many positives. I think it's really understated.
Now, Taz, what gives you the passion to promote pigeon racing like you do?
Well, Rod, it's just been such a positive experience in my life. Like when I look back, since I was 9 years old, I've been involved in some way or other, and it's just really enhanced my life, you know, all facets of it, in terms of the breeding side, the race season, weaning youngsters, training birds. It just gives you something to look forward to, and it's just a source of great passion and enjoyment. And I've always thought that we should be spreading the gospel about the sport.
And it's a sport the whole family can get involved with.
Absolutely, and I think it actually becomes even more fun with people that I know, where you have 2 or more family members involved. It gives them something to strive for, and they work together for a particular goal. So it's something that I think everyone can enjoy.
I recently called in the Kilmore Invitational Racing Pigeon Club to see what initiatives they have in place for new flyers. The interview with Charlie Gretsch will be on after this break.
The Australian Racing Pigeon Journal has been an interesting educational read since 1993, and still a significant way to keep abreast of the sport of pigeon racing. In each exciting monthly magazine, editor Jeff Howe brings together Australian and international articles. Join pigeon fanciers throughout the world who subscribe and enjoy the Australian Racing Pigeon Journal. Loft visits, training tips, pigeon strains, as well as health advice from world-renowned avian veterinarians, are regular topics featured in this great read. There is nothing better than keeping a quality magazine on the shelf to read anytime.
So the Kilmore Invitational Racing Pigeon Club started in 2016. The idea with these Wonthaggi races that we've come up with is to introduce people around the area, people with not too many birds, people that in general still have pigeons, to try to get them back into racing. The backyards have been so small that big pigeon cages is non-existent, but we're trying to encourage the 10-15 birds to so they've got themselves a nice little loft in their backyard and still be able to participate in an event that our club is holding, separate to any of the federation events. Our series is usually between 8 and 10 races, just to make it more viable for the non-pigeon flyer. So by the time he starts training his pigeons and gets them ready to race, it's not sort of starting and then finished. He's got 8 or 10 weeks to have a nice series of races for himself, and keep him occupied and liking our sport. Okay, this is where we run our Wonthaggi races here in Wallen. Let me set up here. I've got the office just in here, which I do some printing and results, but our club rooms are over here, which we all look forward to come to and get everything done. We've got a great board with our club members and also our sponsors and other businesses that participate, as you can see. The Wonthaggi races, originally our club put it really to get members from all over our federation area and in Melbourne. There's a lot of flyers that don't race anymore. We're trying to get them back into having a bit of fun. We allocate 5 birds to these people that don't have pigeons at all. They get 5 birds. They get raced from this property, and this year so far we've got 11 racing out of that loft. So it's going to be very interesting on the day where we'll get a few birds, hopefully hit the board, and it'll be seconds apart. They'll be here looking at the race. We've also got other people that don't belong to the area that want to be in it, just to have a bit of fun. So it's worked out good. We've had, like I said, we've got 11 this year. We've got 13 that don't belong to a federation as well that will be participating, and we also got our balance of our federation members that will be participating as well. So overall, we want this to be a part of a promotion of pigeon racing every year, and it seems to be over 1 year it's just grown. Really, I can't believe every time I ask someone regarding what we're doing, they want to be in it, and for the amount of money that they're putting in and the fun that they're having, it's just a bonus for pigeon racing in general.
And these club rooms here, I see it's a real social place too. You've got the beer table, you've got all the different things. How does that get involved? When do you use that? During the week, or is it after racing?
Last year we had a pre-season barbecue and a pool night, which came out to be, I think the results are still up here with our game results, so it's still on the board. It's Saturday when we come and produce our clocks. People get to use that while I'm doing the results. They're either playing pool or out there on the barbecue cooking, and at the same time see a few birds come home. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's
the barbecue
utilised.
area is great, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah, it's. I think that's what we look forward to.
Now, I was here when you had your Christmas break-up. That was a big concern too.
Christmas party was, breakup was good. We had a lot of outsiders, our sponsors and businesses that participated, that come along, did not expect anything to what they'd seen with the setup that's involved in pigeon racing and how well we appreciate our sport and what we do for our sport with our cages set up. People think it's just a chook shed until they have a look and they go, I couldn't believe that's a pigeon cage, which is normal with a lot of people these days with some of the lofts that they see. The atmosphere, when it comes to the amount of people that come, they can't believe how many people is actually involved in the racing side. So it's opened a lot of eyes by the outsiders coming in and having a look as a pigeon racer, what he's got in his own property. The One Daggy series is from 100 to 150 kilometres, depending on where you live. So it's a good, nice, short series. We have sponsors like the Bendigo Bank, who's been with us for 3 years now and helped us along the way of getting this trailer built. They've been fantastic. We've also got other businesses that are involved. This year we're going to have them involved in actually racing with each other. We've got our local newspaper who's part of our racing schedule, so they're in it as well. So we've sort of covered everything from our advertising to our banking, plus businesses that we go along there and support them with obviously purchasing stuff for us. So we get to see them all the time. I get to see them all the time. They get to see me, and I asked them a question regarding pigeons and our racing, and they were very interested in coming along and joining in. Our club have rules in place that are different to a federation. We've introduced a system with rubbers where flyers do not have to purchase electronic timers or clocks. Being new to the game, it starts to get pretty expensive when you start adding up all your bits and pieces that you need. So we've introduced a rubber system where when the bird does come home, it's a matter of pulling that rubber off their leg and texting myself their number, which will be recorded on the phone as their clocking time, so they don't get a variation. It's quite easy, they're having fun, and that's the main thing. The Kilmore Club has introduced these One Thaggy races for a lot of reasons. One reason is to introduce pigeon racing up here where we are in Wallen and all the local areas, because obviously we need to get some more flyers. Now, not forgetting that the members in our club have been with the Victorian Racing Pigeon Unions for a very long time. My dad and other flyers in this club, fathers have all raced in our federation, and as part of the federation we're trying to increase the sport of pigeon racing, and the One Thaggy to me is like introducing, it's a kindergarten start. You've got to have a starting point. So the starting point is nice and short, introducing these flies into it, which we all know once you get started it's very hard to get out. So we're trying to keep them there, low cost, a short series of 10 weeks, happy, and if they're next year, we'd love to see them join our federation, and at least they know about pigeons, they know costing about pigeons, they know the atmosphere in meeting new flyers and going around to people's places like here and coming to a club room and having a barbecue. That's what it's all about. So we're trying to introduce all these new people small and hopefully branch out to our federation and join us in a 20 series and distance racing and stuff like that. So, and the thing is, another thing too is this is a benchmark for all federations that they can see what we've done, and there's nothing to stop them to do exactly the same. You start off with a trailer that holds 300-400 birds, putting it out to your businesses. It's not hard. If they need any help, we've got a web page or a Facebook page that they can get on there. They can see all our photos and stuff. So any questions they need to ask, feel free. We're open book. Each week we have given out diplomas, and we give out a trophy for the end of series winner. We also do have prize money, which is not much, but it's enough to show an interest. So especially with these people that've only got sending a small amount of small team, it keeps the cost low for them, and they get to enjoy it. And yeah, that's how it all works. These races that we've conducted from Wonthaggi are very short races. Within 2-3 hours, the birds are home. The amount of phone calls I get as soon as I get a bird wanting to know the result, it's just tremendous to see. Even people that sponsors, to find out how we went, they reckon it's fantastic. The fun that we have organising these, even basketing night, it's just fantastic. Everybody gets together, we put our birds through, we all have our pizzas at the end of the basketing, so we do things together. It's not like we've still got people working while people are eating. No, we're there as a team, we're there all together. We're all there to have fun and sit down, relax and socialise. So the pigeons are ready, they're in the trailer, ready to go to their Wonthaggi race, and everybody, as we all do, we sit there and chat and talk about the weather and everything else. But the fun that we have, it's just been really good, and to carry it on to the following year again, it's really well done to all the flyers out there that do want to participate in a race like Wonthaggi. This year, the Kilmore Club has decided, due to COVID restrictions, that we'll be basketing the birds here at our club rooms in Wallen. We're pretty strict ourselves in making sure that everything is right, that the flyers are safe, and that the amount of people that we have here, we're under strict guidelines. We want to try and obviously have a racing season this year. So far it looks like we might be making a start very shortly, but in the meantime we still want to be safe, and again our club's decided to have it here, so we've got full control, and everybody gets to have a good, hopefully, series of races, and we just keep continuing to the end.
Taz, thank you very much for coming on Pigeon Racing World with Winners1. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you, Rod and Dave, and thank you for the exposure, and hopefully what we do helps the sport in a major way.
Night Taz, night Rod, good night listeners.
Before we finish tonight's show, we've had some interest about the clocks behind us. Let's have a closer look. With over 100 manufacturers and different models over the years, some companies only lasted a short time, with most falling by the wayside by the 1950s. All clocks were purchased from Europe, USA, China and Australia, and with great appreciation, some clocks have been donated by Australian fanciers. All our clocks are in working order, testament to original workmanship. Australia's first pigeon timing clocks were converted alarm clocks, commonly called Tin Lizzies. Our 3 were kindly donated. The homing or carrier pigeon was first published in 1871 and is one of the earliest books on racing pigeons. Although an original book is very rare, in bookshops you can purchase paperback photocopy reprint editions. The 1897 Belgian-made Harvey's clock, nicknamed the suitcase clock, is the largest clock we own, and I've come across. It measures 34 by 24 centimetres. The different clocks record the pigeon time by either stamping a hole in the sheet, printing the arrival time, or stopping or starting the clock. All modern clocks record the time by scanning an electronic chip. The 1925 unique pigeon timer from the USA is the smallest, at 11 by 8 centimetres. A two-bird clocking, it's a count-back clock that once the pigeon is timed, it starts one of the two clocks. The 1990 Young Fay clock is one of the earliest electronic clocks that didn't require a stamp printout. They still use race rubbers, although were plugged into a computer to download the arrival time. The Benzin electronic pigeon timing clock is one of the most popular clocks today.